The government wants me to pay someone named tax. Sorry, I don't donate to charity. I worked hard building my crypto empire with my own hands. A generous loan from my father's hedge fund company.
Oh, I didn't see you there. Sorry, I was just getting stronger to fight racism. I try my absolute best to keep myself an open book. Within reason, of course, because lying to the internet is incredibly fun. So with that in mind, let's play a quick game of two truths and a lie. I am originally South African, I have no hair on top of my head, and I am no longer allowed to see my kids even on weekends due to my drinking problem. Which still doesn't make sense to me because you can't have a problem with something you're really good at. Ugh, what do I care? You seem a clever fellow. You probably already saw through my deception. Yes, in fact, this beautiful man you see before you, who is quite obviously sun-kissed, was born and raised in the city of Cape Town, the western province of my beautiful fair home nation. A gorgeous location for muggings and robberies, and also a rather interesting place for someone to have their childhood. However, oddly enough, not the most interesting place in the nation, because unbeknownst to me until literally yesterday, there is a town just up north from where I grew up by the name of Orania that still participates in apartheid practices.
Welcome to Orania, South Africa's only pure white town founded by Afrikaners for Afrikaners. Orania was built in the Northern Cape in 1991, just after the release of Nelson Mandela.
We would like to redefine our structures in such a way that we decide on our own affairs and in that sense experience ourselves as being free, whilst at the same moment be in peace with everybody around us.
They have their own money as well as their own flag. Orania is built on privately owned land which belongs to the Vleitiskrol Andela Block company. Homeowners can become shareholders of the company as well as members of the council to decide on how their town should be run. Orania's population is growing at 9% a year. It attracts Afrikaners who feel left out in the new South Africa and who are scared of the country's high crime rates. Kobus Jonk arrived a year ago with his family after passing an interview in front of a committee of residents.
You know, we don't lock our cars at night here. We don't lock our house. If you look at our front door there, the key is in the front door. So you open it and you walk in whenever you want to do it.
Orania is protected by South Africa's constitution, which guarantees the right of self-determination. But residents here are thinking big, their next goal, the creation of an Afrikaner Republic.
A quick history lesson for you guys to have some better context. The Afrikaner people are a white subsection of South African culture. They can trace their origins back to the Dutch in the 16th century and founded or stole the land of the natives, most commonly the Zulu people, who you may have heard of through Shaka Zulu, one of history's most famous warriors. Anyways, around the same time that this was happening, the English showed up, and unsurprisingly the two Western powers fought for control over the Cape for years to come. Blah 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 blah, a whole bunch of other shit happened. The English won out and ruled over South Africa for centuries, and eventually South Africa, much like our American friends, claimed independence from the colonial throne. Finally, after years of struggling against tyranny, oppression, for the sake of our freedom, we could do exactly what the English were doing and carrying on, segregating people by race. The ideal of a better tomorrow, as long as you're white. A couple of years of the Afrikaners being not so chill went by, and a wee fella named Nelson came along and ended it all through completely zen and forward-thinking ways, and did not at all involve Nelson Mandela being the leader of a communist faction of the ANC that he directly orchestrated to form a bombing campaign that resulted in at least 130 people dead, mostly being black, which would be fine if that's how he was remembered, but the fact that he's painted as this, arbitrator of peace just really gets under my skin. The only image of Nelson I ever had, even as a kid, was of this peaceful old loving man, and not once did anybody mention the fact that he was a mass murderer, or at the bare minimum was orchestrating mass manslaughters. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't justified in it, but 130 people dead is a lot. Imagine you broke 130 eggs, there'd be yolk everywhere. At least when you're told about Martin Luther King, the first thing that gets brought up by other people is the good and the bad, like the fact that Martin liked to sniff around other bushes that weren't his thistle, women that weren't his wife. But when you hear about my boy, my lad, Nelson, nobody ever mentions the blood-soaked road to freedom. I'd rather my oak was a pum-pum mound. Anyways, Orania is a relic of that bygone apartheid time. Well, it is to us, but they kind of claim that they're not. See, the funny thing about Orania is anybody can go there, and anybody can claim to live there. As mentioned in the video I showed you, the council decides your fate, and you are only permitted to move into a house in Orania if you are approved by a council of white Afrikaans people, who presumably were part of the original Dutch settlers with how old they are. Now, the awesome thing about Orania, or rather the horribly disgusting thing, depending on how lame you are, is that because anybody anybody can apply to live there, the Afrikaans people running the town can't flat out refuse you because you're black, because obviously that would violate anti-discrimination laws. So instead, they have to get really creative and use every excuse under the sun as to why they can't accept you into the community. One of their favorites that they like to use offhandedly to deny your application is that they're afraid to dilute the culture. More specifically, if you're not a native-born Afrikaans speaker, aka code word white pasty, you wouldn't gel well into the mix. And basically, you force their hand into using as many code words as they can think of. But they can't flat out say the South African N-word, even though they're licking their lips for the delicious opportunity to announce that K. Mr. Tumbe, I presume. Yes, that is me. No, it's okay. We don't shake hands here. Oh, is that a custom in Oranje? Yeah. So from what I've read, you're from Vanderbijl. You grew up with an Afrikaans family, adopted. You speak the language fluently, and you just want the opportunity to farm. Yes, that's correct. Well, you see, Mr. Tumbe, Oranje is quite a specific town. We have a very specific mindset here, and we just want you to know that although we appreciate your offer to join us, we're worried that you won't adjust well to our living situations. How so? Well, your hair is different. You can't. There's no guys who can do your hair here like that. That's fine. I cut my own hair. Oh, okay. Well, we don't use South African rand here. I know some peoples are very particular. We have to exchange it all. It's a whole big mess. You don't want to get your hands involved. No. I'm okay adjusting. In fact, it'd be great. The value of the rand is continuously dropping. I think it's a new opportunity for me to get my investments up in such a small town. Yeah, and it also says here you make quite a good amount of money. Sorry, sir, but I've jumped for every single one of your loopholes. I've done every single test you wanted me to do. What is the holdup? Why am I being denied at this point? Well, there's a very easy way of saying this. Jeez, I'm fucking See, can't accuse me of actually saying it. Proof! Anyways, amongst other tidbits that prove that they are racist in spite of them denying it, is for example the sign that you see when entering the town. Welcome in the Afrikaner Tusti. I don't care if I'm pronouncing it right, Dutch is already a joke of a language, and Afrikaans is a lesser version of that. So lek maar peel, which translates to welcome to the home of the Afrikaans people. And just so you know, because you may not be aware, in South African context when you refer to an Afrikaans person, that directly means a white Dutch descendant, because that is what they called themselves when they settled. Afrikaans is a language, and Afrikaner is a white Dutch person. See the distinction? But wait, there's more. Fascinating thing about Oranje being a pseudo-sovereign state is of course they have their own flag. Quite a nice design, you know, it's clean, it's aesthetically pleasing, but it looks vaguely familiar. Oh. Yeah, man, I believe in coincidence. Like, it was probably fate that I hit that kid down that dark alley 2 years ago. He more than likely would have grown up to be a bad person, but coincidences like this don't really happen. Unless by some Benny Hill miracle somebody stumbled into that fabric factory that day, grabbed a piece of cloth and happened to trip right over into the sewing machine, then ran it straight along to look perfectly identical to the apartheid flag. I'm assuming this was by dealer's choice. I could be wrong though, stranger things have happened. I mean, both my children look a lot like my best friend from back home, and that is partly the reason why I got so good at drinking. So maybe this could have also just been a freak accident of nature. Other not so subtle signs that no black people are allowed are the interviews that some of the locals give.
We are from Africa, that's why we call ourselves Afrikaners. We want to remain here. We also want to retain our identity. Now, to retain one's identity is not a racist impulse. We wanted to retain our identity against the English or the British imperialism also, and they're even whiter than we are, much whiter.
As for Nelson Mandela, the man credited with ending apartheid, the people of Oranje don't really hold him in high regard.
I don't think that I can see him as a hero. Because he's part of a whole package. Mandela is part of a whole package. And as Mandela, all the other leaders within the ANC make a contribution to create some policy that is from our viewpoint, not necessarily for the best of this country.
Now, another fascinating fact about Oranje is the town was actually founded by the son-in-law of Frederick Verwoerd, who was directly credited as the architect of apartheid. And he was also a former prime minister during that time. Oranje, baby! No matter how many wink winkers, nudge nudges you give, the fact that your flag looks so similar to the apartheid flag, the fact that you have a council of people that approves what type of demographic you want in your town, the fact that I didn't mention that all the jobs are exclusively done by white people, and the fact that your town was founded by the son-in-law of one of the most racist men in history. The writing's on the wall, the nails in the coffin, and you're already dead. There's only so many innuendos you can get away with. Now, having said all that, let me clarify this next part. Racism's bad. We should all treat each other like equals. If you have to say that out loud, you're a loser. Even though it's bad, you gotta admit this is kind of fascinating. There is a town in South Africa that is so stuck in its old racist hatred ways that they're not unwilling to clench the jaw no matter how much time has progressed. They are so racist and hate people that look different from them so much that they develop their own fucking currency. Do you know how full of hatred, how full of absolute burning rage you have to be to not only patent, design, and imprint and circulate one's own money? The dedication is unreal. They would rather start their own mini economy than dare risk the chance of integrating with black people. They are bad people, but they are fascinating people. I have no further points than the genuine awe I feel inside, and I'm also going to put out a siren call, because in the process of making this video I had a flash memory of something I haven't thought about in years. To any of my fellow South Africans, of course you know Leon Schuster. For all of you who don't know, he's a popular South African comedian, I guess. More of a prankster. Now, if somebody could tell me if I'm correct, I don't know if it was years ago or if it was more recently, but I swear to God, he pulled a prank where he went into a whites-only town at one point, in blackface admittedly, and messed around with the locals. If you know what I'm talking about, could you please comment it? I need to know that this was a real thing and I didn't just dream it. Anyways guys, that's all I have to say on the matter. Oranian, I hope a tornado takes you, and as for you watching, I hope you click that subscribe button. I am tired guys, I shall see you later. Bye bye.